Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this intermediate UX expert session. My name is Kat and I'm training manager here at UX Academy. I hope everyone can hear me well. Before we start, please leave a message in the comment section. Let us know where you're watching us from, what city, what country. We would really like to know. On the screen, I hope you can hear me. Please leave a message in the chat just to make sure. Before we go to the main part, this will be our agenda for today. Make sure to stay until the end of this session because we will answer some of your questions. You can start with the questions right now. You can leave them in the comment and we'll make sure to answer them afterwards. Before our teacher takes the lead into this session, I would like to tell you a bit about UX Academy. We're a London-based training company and we run online live evening courses for UX design. Hello, it's nice to see you. I see already some comments. Hi, Megan. Thank you so much. Hello, London. We have been around for over 4 years and we taught thousands of students. We started as a classroom at Central London, and during the COVID, as everyone else, we switched from classroom to Zoom, and now we run online live evening courses with live teachers, of course. This is the example on the screen, 12 students, 1 teacher. And as I mentioned, we taught over thousands of students and we've been around for over 4 years. One thing I would like to say, our students are coming from top companies. This is the example of some of the companies. This session is specifically for intermediate UX design course, which is coming on the 13th of June. And of course, if you join our course, these will be the tools you'll be using. We use Slack to communicate with each other. We will have 3 different groups, one with the entire class, one specifically for your team, because you'll be divided into the teams, and one with the real client. With our courses, you'll be working with a real client on a real project. And of course, you will have a specific Slack channel for that, so you can communicate with the client at any time. All recordings and slides will be stored at Google Drive, which you will have the access at any time. And you'll be using Figma and FigJam, which are very standard industry tools for prototyping. And of course, classes are held over the Zoom platform. One thing to mention about UX Academy is mentorship is a very neat point about us. Every week for 30 minutes, you will have a mentorship session with an expert with a UX expert. You can ask any questions about anything you need regarding the course, regarding the project you'll be working, or about the career advices for the future. At UX Academy, we offer flexible payment plans, Noma and Klarna. To find out more about our payment plans, please go to our website, myuxacademy.com, and go to About Us and then Payment Plans. And right now, this was just a short information about UX Academy. One of our teachers that is teaching intermediate UX design course, Nora, will now take the lead and she will start presenting. Nora, please welcome.
Hey, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're tuning in. I'm right now in Ghent in Belgium. So hello to everyone who's tuning in from Belgium, in case there is anyone, and also hello to everyone else. So yeah, as Kat already said, I'm the teacher of the UX Intermediate course. I've been teaching the UX Intermediate course. I think this is going to be the 5th time that I'm going to be teaching it, something like that. And I will be teaching it together with Gonzalo, who is the mentor and who I think he has been mentoring at UX Academy for a lot longer than I've even been teaching there. I'm not 100% sure when he joined, but yeah, we're both already have quite a lot of experience with this intermediate course. But just, yeah, again, hi everyone. And now I also want to first just tell you very quickly a bit about this course, who this training is for. And then afterwards, I'm also just going to tell you a little bit more about some of the topics that we will be talking about, and also that you can already take something away from this webinar. So first of all, just quickly, who is this training for, this intermediate course? I would say it's perfect for people that already have some experience in UX. I don't want to exactly put a number on it, like you need to have 1 year of experience, because some people in 1 year will have grown a lot more than another person, depending on where you work at, your previous experience. All of that is a little bit hard to say. But in general, it's a course that really focuses on advanced user research, fast prototyping, stakeholder management. So in general, I would say the people in the past that I've seen who have gotten most benefit out of the course are either people who have already taken a beginner course at UX Academy or a beginner course at another school, or also people who have maybe a bit more of a graphic design, maybe graphic design background, people who have worked as a UI designer, UX/UI designer, product designer, and who really also want to, first of all, get a better understanding of the whole process that we have in UX design, and just also verify that what they know is really UX, and also to just really improve their user research skills. That's a little bit, for especially what we've seen in the previous iteration of the course. Then, of course, also we will be talking about, for example, presentation skills, stakeholder management skills. So skills that maybe as a junior will already be helpful for you, but are especially also important for you if you really want to advance your career in UX. So the course outcomes, some of the outcomes of the course will be that you will be able to create user journey maps and identify pain points and opportunities. You will develop fast prototyping skills. You will be able to create a research plan, implement advanced user research techniques, and analyze research findings. You will also develop innovative design thinking to solve problems in a creative and innovative way. You will also conduct research and testing within an agile environment. You will develop your software skills in Figma and Miro, and you will also present your work to real clients in a professional manner and develop your communication skills. But okay, you can always ask some questions about the course later. For now, I want to talk a little bit about some of the topics that we'll actually tackle in the course, so that you also get a bit more of an idea. Does this match what I'm looking for? And also, of course, again, to take something away from this webinar, that you will already have learned something. And afterwards, you can give me a feedback if this is completely new to you, if you already know this a little bit or not. If you feel like you're already an expert in these topics, let me know. So first of all, thinking like a UX designer, I think this is one of the most important topics to talk about. How does a UX designer actually think? What do we? I think a lot of people who are not working in tech, in anything design related, and when I tell them like I work as a UX designer, a lot of people first don't know what I do, and they think of design as, yeah, it's kind of art, but it's not. However, again, like this here, I'm of course talking about people that work in a completely different field, that are not really familiar with design. And then often I also explain my job as I'm kind of like an architect. So it's not art, but I have a lot of different factors that I need to consider. So on the one hand, I need to consider whether a product is actually desirable for the user, or whether certain parts of the product, certain features are desirable to the user. So if I take that analogy with an architect, okay, who am I actually designing this building for? What people are going to live in that building? So, for example, are we going to have a lot of families? Are we going to have elderly people, and so on? So what is desirable? Then we also talk about viability and feasibility. So feasibility is something that I need to think about what is actually technically feasible. So there are some things that are not really possible to implement. There are technical constraints. And some of these technical constraints might also be just due to, well, where maybe we don't have enough developers, maybe uh, due to the language that we're working with, due to the staff that we have, and so on. What are the limitations? And also sometimes, of course, also what are budget constraints? And then viable, of course, links to what I just said. What is actually viable for the business, right? Like as a designer, unlike an artist, we really need to think about these different things. What is desirable for the user? What is viable actually for the business? Because in the end, the business also needs to survive. And on the other hand, what is also technically feasible? This is kind of the space that as a UX designer, you try to find compromises between these different spaces and what you constantly have to be thinking about. So this, what I just showed you in a nice graphic, can also be summarized in a quote. Design thinking is a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. So, and this is a quote by Tim Brown, the executive chair of IDEO, which is a very famous design and innovation firm. So to just very much summarizing also what I already explained before, this is what design thinking, the way you think as a designer, is about. In general, I would also say there are certain mindsets that you need to have for human-centered design. And we can talk about different types of mindsets depending on the school of design that you look at. You will find different graphics and I wouldn't say rules, but yeah, again, mindsets. In this case, this is taken from the Institute of Design at Stanford. So they talk about mindsets for human-centered design. You need to focus on human values. You need to focus on show, don't tell, embrace experimentation, be mindful of the process, craft clarity, radical collaboration, bias towards action. So unfortunately, we don't have the time in this webinar to really talk about all of these different mindsets. And I would say just reading through them, they are also kind of self-explanatory. That doesn't mean that they are always easy to implement, but I think you already at least grasp a little bit what it's about. So for example, a bias towards action. What does that mean? A bias towards action. Instead of just doing research and reading and just, like just stick as being behind your desk, you rather try to get into action. You try to do an experiment. This is what bias towards action means as a designer. You try to make a prototype, test it, and so on. And that's a kind of a general mindset that you want to adopt. Not just doing hours and hours of research, like more of, let's say, an academic mindset, where again, like you read up a lot, you research and so on. You rather try to get into action quickly, which doesn't mean not doing research, but that's a different topic. So I have another quote for you by Sarah Gibbons from the Niels Norman Group. So we will talk also a little bit more about the design thinking process, which is also at the foundation of the intermediate UX design course, but I'll get back to that. But so the design thinking ideology asserts that a hands-on, user-centric approach to problem solving can lead to innovation, and innovation can lead to differentiation and a competitive advantage. This hands-on, user-centric approach is defined by the design thinking process and comprises of 6 distinct phases. So depending on your level of experience, you're already familiar with the UX design process. Maybe you've also heard of the design thinking ideology already. So this is something that is, as I said, it's part of the UX design course as kind of also a way we structure it. I'll talk a little bit more about it later. But this is also something at the heart of like how a designer thinks, of like how a designer approaches their work. So concretely, the phases that you are going through in design thinking, and by the way, design thinking is not just for UX designers, but design thinking is something that designers across different industries use. And in general, it's really more the mindset or like the thinking process that a designer uses, but it doesn't mean that it's only being used by designers, but it's really a way of thinking to create innovation. So as you can see, we have 3 different phases. First of all, understand. In the understand phase, we try to empathize. We really try to understand a problem. We do our research. We try to empathize with the user. Then we define our problem. Then we ideate. That's the exploration phase. We ideate. We try to come up with lots of different ideas. Then we prototype them. Like again, think back of the mindsets that I talked about, getting into action. We have lots of different ideas. We chose an idea or maybe 1 or 2, maybe 2 or 3, and we're prototyping them, and then we're testing them. And afterwards, we've tested them, we maybe improved them. As you can see, it's not a linear process. So at every stage, you might also have to go back again to the drawing board. Maybe the test showed that you need to change something in the prototype. Maybe you also need to do more research. And then once you have a prototype that you've received good feedback on, you're going to implement it. And again, this is, of course, something that UX designers also work with, but on the other hand, also used in a lot of other industries and designers of all sorts. I hope this was already clear. Again, at the end, we have time for questions. So if you want to ask questions about this part, we definitely have time for that. Now I want to talk a little bit more about user journey maps. So when it comes to user journey maps, this is one of those tools that, first of all, I mean, we will be covering in the course, but it's also just in general a tool that we think is very important for UX designers. Every UX designer should be able to use to make user journey maps, because it very much helps with, let's go back to the phases, with the empathize stage. So we really understand what the user is going through, and we can really understand the process of the user. So for everyone who hasn't heard of user journey maps yet, please leave a comment. So let me know if this is something completely new to you, or if you're already familiar with user journey maps. Maybe also know them under the name of customer journey maps. So basically in this, we have, first of all, we have a specific user, so a persona. Then we have a scenario, and we have write down different goals. So let's say, for example, we have our persona. We call her, let's say, Lazy Lucy, and Lazy Lucy wants to change her mobile phone plan or her insurance plan or whatever the scenario is, and she wants to find a mobile. Let's go for the first example. She wants to find a mobile phone plan that is a lot cheaper and that she can share with her husband, and also give some extra discount to that. So, and then this is kind of the scenario for this journey map. And then we look at all of the phases. We don't just look at the experience that they have with our product, but also what happens before and what happens after. And as you can see, like the way this can look like is very different. During the course, we will also look at different examples and give you some tips on what a good user journey map is. But just the general structure is that you have different phases. You write down what are the actions, what are they actually doing. You write down emotions. So maybe at this point they feel frustrated, at this point they feel excited. And you also often integrate quotes. So those are like the little speech bubbles that you see that ideally should be taken from user interviews. And then, like what you can see below, opportunities and internal ownership. So based on that, you would also write down what are actually opportunities, how can we improve this process? And maybe also write down, it's very common, write down internal ownership. So, okay, they get frustrated at the very beginning of this phase, or maybe a little bit later. Who is actually owns this phase? Maybe this is something that actually marketing needs to tackle, and so on. So just to tell you a little bit more of the persona scenario goals that I already talked about. So the most important thing of the user journey map is really to tie it to persona, because we are not trying to make a user journey map for all of the potential users that we might have for the whole user base. But you start with having a persona. So you try to have a little bit more of an idea of the different user types, user profiles that you have. You define them first, and then If you have 4 personas, you might need to work out 4 different user journey maps. And then kind of the questions that you're considering are, why is the user using your product? What are they trying to accomplish? What are the main steps the user goes through to accomplish their task? What are the pain points or opportunities in the experience? What works? And how does the user feel? In general, why do we use user journey maps? And like, why is it something that I also cover in the course extensively? Why is it something that I also chose for this webinar to cover? User journey maps really help to create a holistic view of the user experience. So that helps with, on the one hand, really making sure that your whole team is aligned. So making sure that the product manager understands what the UX is, but also the developer, like the business analyst, and so on. You just really make sure that everyone is on the same page. And you're doing that not by a lengthy report, but you have a very visual reference that you can even put up in your office or that you can save somewhere else. It's very concise and you can just quickly look at it. It also makes it a lot easier to empathize with the user and for people to understand the feelings, motivations, and experience. Of course, your user journey map should be based on research. So that's also why I said, what do we put in the speech bubbles? We usually integrate quotes from user interviews. And that can also really help, again, with helping people to empathize with the user and really helping them to understand what the user is going through. Lastly, it's also very important to set a clear objective when you're creating a user journey map. So why are you actually creating this map in the first place? If you Google user journey map, you will find lots of different examples. Visually speaking, they look all very different. Of course, there are common denominators, but still, visually speaking, and even like some of the extra information that is included, how much zoomed out or zoomed in they are, that often differs. So it's important to also consider who is the user of your journey map in a way. So why are you creating this map? Of course, as I said, there are general objectives of a user journey map, but for example, maybe you can make a user journey map to map out the future, the ideal the ideal user experience. Maybe you want to map out the current experience. Maybe you want to really focus on a specific stage. Maybe you want to be more specific, maybe more zoomed out. So that's also something very important to consider. This, I think, also sums up, if you don't know what their problems are, how would you know you solved it? So this also comes back to, in general, like, why do we have a user journey map? It really helps us to understand the problems. And this is, of course, also the reason why we do user research. And this is also why in this intermediate course, we are focusing so much on user research. Not because everyone wants to become a user researcher, but even a UI designer should have at least some understanding of user research and be able to understand the whole process. Let's talk about a different topic. I know I'm tackling different topics in this webinar and maybe also going a little bit fast. I mean, keep in mind, of course, these are topics that we will cover more in detail in the course, or it's just to give you a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about. And I just want to give you also different pieces of information of different topics of the process. So the user journey map is one of those skills that you should master. And now let's talk a bit about how to bring your idea to life. So if you think back of the process, the design thinking process that I talked about at the beginning, how to bring your ideas to life. Now we're, of course, moving further on in the process. You have come up with lots of different ideas. One way that you could map them out first is by making a storyboard. This is how it could look like. A storyboard, it's something very, very simple. You just sketch out something, you sketch out the problem. As you can see, we have some very, very simple sketches of how an app could look like or how a feature of a certain app could look like. And this also just helps you on the one hand to visualize your own thoughts, and that this helps in the end to communicate your idea better. So this can be one of the techniques. Then afterwards, so you have communicated your ideas, you have decided on what you want to test. You have a certain idea that you've maybe voted on in your team that you really want to see whether it could actually be also really meet the needs of your users. So how do you test it? So something that we will actually talk about in the course are different ways of testing. Something that you will really practice with like a project with a client is a low fidelity test. But we will also talk about other tests like doing a fake door test, concierge Wizard of Oz test, longitudinal test like a diary study. So there are different types of experiments that really help you to test whether users actually want/need something. And all of these have different advantages and disadvantages. Something that I see that a lot of, especially junior UX designers, researchers, etc., do is they are being approached by a client, by their manager, etc., and they get asked to, hey, can you do, for example, a quick fidelity test? Can you do a quick user interview? Without actually questioning what the goal is. So first of all, what I would always encourage you, and also what we're going to talk about a lot in the course, is first actually setting up your research goal. What do you actually want to find out? What does your client, your manager, the team, etc., your stakeholders, what do they actually want to know? And from then, we can also choose what the best research method is. And maybe there are other constraints, like budget constraints. Maybe there are time constraints. And from that, we can choose a certain method that really matches what we want to find out. So just briefly to talk about these different ways of testing assumptions in user research. So assumptions, you will always have assumptions about your users. And of course, your goal is to reduce assumptions that you have about your users, how to use your product, what they need, etc. You try to reduce the assumptions and especially also focus on very risky assumptions. What do I mean by risky? Assumptions that are risky for the business. If we make the assumption that people, like let's take a big assumption, okay, people need an app or a program, software, something to compare different mobile phone prices. That's our assumptions, what we base our business around. And then if people don't actually need it, well, this business is not going to survive. So key assumptions, when we talk about assumptions, we mean what we believe about our customers, but we don't have data to support this. And it must be true for the success of the solution. Those are key assumptions, risky assumptions. How do we validate assumptions? We create an experiment. So we have a hypothesis. So if we do this, then people are going to exhibit a certain behavior. And then we can create a prototype and actually say, okay, is our hypothesis true or not? And as you can see in the two graphics that I included here in this slide, first of all, this is, of course, a continuous process. So we build something, we share, we test and learn, and we iterate. Just like in general design thinking, it's not a linear process. And of course, we want to start with assumptions that are high risk and where we are really uncertain. That's where we want to start. So now some of the techniques that you can use. First of all, we have the fake door test. That might be something. Maybe it's something you've even come across already yourself, even if you didn't know what it was. So maybe on Facebook, you got a message, sorry, this feature isn't available right now. An error occurred while processing this request. Okay, maybe it was really an error, but this could have been a fake door test. So you basically present people with a fake door, like kind of a fake button to your feature, a call to action, or maybe even a low fidelity prototype and kind of see how many people will click on it or try to use it. And then you can gather some data on, okay, is this actually something people are curious about, people are interested in? The concierge Wizard of Oz test is another test. If I go back to this graphic, it takes a bit more time than a fake door test, but we are getting higher confidence in like actually our findings. So the Wizard of Oz test, just to demonstrate it, here I have included a graphic. So the listening typewriter by IBM 1984. How can you test whether people actually want to have a listening typewriter, like whether they want to have speech recognition, basically? It's going to take years to develop that. Is it something that people need and want? So a way to test it is we have our user who sits in front of a microphone and thinks, well, here we have the difference between concierge, wizard of Oz test. Do they know about this experience, what's happening or not? He is going to say something, he's going to dictate something, and in the background hidden, we have someone who is actually going to type out his message, and it appears on the screen. So instead of actually really developing speech recognition, we actually have a human doing it. And then we test, okay, how do they react? How is this working? And so on. And then the difference between concierge and Wizard of Oz test is whether the user is actually aware of the human being behind the screens, or it just seems like there is some algorithm behind the scenes that is actually doing the work. So this were just a little bit, some different insights, some of the topics that we're talking about, and to kind of show you a little bit how this fits into the structure of the course and in general how the course looks like. We have a 6-week course. So that means in week 1, probably recognize the structure. We're going to talk about how to empathize. So we're going to talk about user research, different user research methods, how to do user research well, what you need to think about. We will do user interviews, but we also talk about other research methods. In week 2, we're going to define. Week 3, ideate. Week 4, prototype. Week 5, test. And in week 6, well, in this case, we're not going to implement it, but we're going to present, or we're going to talk about how to present your solution to the client. And then afterwards, you're going to present it to the client. So as we already mentioned, not just me, but also Kat, so you're going to work with a client in this project, in this course. So what does that mean? I think it's one of the main advantages also of the course at UX Academy. We are not just presenting you with theoretical knowledge, but we are going through the structure of the course. So going from empathize, define, ideate, I'm going to talk a bit, and I wouldn't say it's a lecture, but of course, in some sessions, I will talk a little bit more. And then we're immediately also going to implement the knowledge. So, for example, we talk about user research. I will give you some information. And then afterwards, you will be faced with a client project, and you will immediately, from week 1 to week 6, implement your knowledge. So we talk about user interviews. As a homework between week 1 and 2, you will have to do user interviews. So immediately apply your knowledge, which in terms of learning is also proven is going to be way more effective than just, reading a book, listening to a presentation, but immediately applying your knowledge. So this is basically going to continue throughout the course. So define, ideate. We'll talk about ideation. We'll do a mini ideation workshop in class. And then afterwards, you have some more time to refine it in the homework. And of course, you also have the mentoring sessions where you can ask questions. So if you have questions about, is this prototype good? We don't really understand how this works in Figma, then you can ask it in the mentoring session. So to give you some more information of the client project, you usually work with startups, with small companies, and they will usually give you quite a general prompt, like something how they want to improve the user experience of their website, of their app. And then you are going to work with them and we're going to guide you through it. This really doesn't just have the advantage that it's very practical, but on the other hand, of course, you also in the end can actually say that you've worked with a client and you didn't just do a very theoretical project, like an invented case study, as is often the case. You can really say you can present a case study that you've done for a client. Anything to add, Kat, to the client project? Anything I've forgotten?
Thank you so much, Nora. Well, basically, you mentioned everything regarding the client. I just want to say one more time, when you work with the client, you have a Slack channel where you communicate directly with the client, not only over the meetings you're scheduling with the client, but also you can have a daily communication. Also, you have a different channel for your team because let me just recap a bit of information. When you work in a team, you have one Slack channel where you will be communicating with them, working together on the project. Then the second Slack channel for the client, where you will be discussing what will be done next and so on. What Nora said, our courses are 100% live, and they're recorded, which the recordings you can access after the session, and it will be available for you at any time. At the end, of course, you get the certificate. What is interesting to say is that not only you're working with the client, but at the end of the course, you will have a client presentation where you will be presenting what you have been doing so far to the client directly, and it will be like a final thing to do. And afterwards, you get the certificate. Nora already mentioned about the mentorship, which is a great opportunity to discuss about anything you need regarding the course, regarding the client project, or with any advices for the future. Nora is the instructor for the intermediate course. That is, as I mentioned, happening in June. So make sure to visit our website to find out more details. And if you're interested, to sign up for our course. Also, we have two flexible payment plans, Noma and Klarna, and to make our courses more accessible and affordable. And I would really like to hear from you in the comment section. Make sure to ask questions. If you need anything, if you want to know something more from Nora, or if you want to find out more information from myself, feel free to start with the questions. We have time. So we're here. Nora, do you have something to add regarding the course structure?
Let me think. I think when it comes to the course structure, I mean, I already explained that well, we are basically following the design thinking process to also really give you a good idea of the whole process that you follow as a UX designer. And as said, this is also one of the things that a lot of students in the past found the most valuable. Like maybe they are already working. They have some experience, let's say, in wireframing and prototyping, but they are not 100% sure whether they really have a good overview of the whole process. Maybe they just want to verify their knowledge. Maybe they don't know so much about research, or maybe they don't know so much about prototyping, and to really get a good overview. So this is a little bit how we structured the course. Then, well, I already talked a little bit about the structure, how it works in practice. So you will be matched with a real client, and for this client, you have a brief. In general, it's something along the lines of like improving the user experience, trying to find issues on given website, app, etc. You said usually working with a startup, so everything is usually still kind of rough, but it also gives a lot of opportunities for improvement, of course. And then you will be given some information from the first session onwards. You will have some homework. That's maybe also important to mention. There will be homework. So it's not just 2.5 hours listening to something and then next week the same thing again. You will be expected to at least have a few hours next to class to also invest into doing homework. So this is when you then actually work on the client project, also during class, of course, but also in homework in your group. And then there's a mentoring session.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Sorry, my connection was lost for a second. What I wanted to say is that our courses are usually at the evenings. So we understand that some people might work and so on. So our courses are usually in the
And maybe let me continue that. Kat is trying to get her connection back. So there are in the evenings, European time, UK time specifically. So normally they are at 6 p.m. UK time. So of course, in the past, we've had people join from different countries. In the last course, we even had someone joining from New Zealand. That I don't remember exactly what time it was for her, but it was very early in the morning, like 6 or 7 a.m. And she was a complete champ to join the course so early in the morning. So of course, that sometimes can uh, make it a little bit difficult to collaborate, but we always try to make sure to match people from more or less the same time zone. And yeah, of course, there's not a specific time that you need to complete your homework, but you have a week to complete it, and you can also, on the one hand, work in the group, but there are also some things you can kind of do whenever you have the time to do them. I think Kat is back. So Kat, I saw that you lost connection again. I just talked a little bit about the different structures that we have in the course, like when it comes to what time the course is and how people collaborate. No, I think she's still, I think she's still trying to get back. So let me maybe see, are there any questions so far? Questions about the course, but of course, also if you want to have more information about user journey maps, we also talked about different experiments that you can run, assumptions, assumption testing. If you have any questions about that, I mean, please feel free to let me know. Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Cascade.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm back. Yes, what we wanted to mention is I heard you were speaking about the course and about details. So
I
guys,
talked a
if you
little
have,
bit about the time,
yes,
so
the
like of what
time.
time it is, and we also had, for example, someone joining from New Zealand last time.
Yes, that is correct. So basically, our students are coming from all around the world and from many different countries, I would say. So you can sign up. What I would suggest right now is you can visit our website myuxacademy.com and make sure to check our upcoming intermediate course. If you have any questions regarding the course structure, the pricing, or anything, feel free to contact us over the email. I will write down in the comment my email so you guys can reach me. And we would like to hear from you. Is there any questions from your side?
Maybe while we wait for questions, I can, like a question that I received several times in the past was like, who is this course for? And I already
Yes.
talked a little bit about it, that of course it's not a complete beginner course. So if you don't know at all what UX design is, you haven't even done a beginner course yet, this is just not a course for you. You need to start with a beginner course, and then later you can come back to this course. It's also not a course that is going to teach you perfect UI design skills. I'm not the right teacher for that. I'm not a UI designer. So if you're looking for that, it's also not the right course for you. But it's really a course for you if you already have some experience in UX design. Maybe you are not even a UX designer. In the past, I also had product designers. So people who are very adjacent, who are very much who know a lot about UX design, but who kind of want to refine their knowledge. So I also had a product manager in the past. That can also work. But yeah, it's really about trying to advance your knowledge in UX design, research, covering the whole field. And then I would also say there are, of course, nowadays, there are so many different ways of how you can learn more about UX design. You can do everything from read books to take courses online, offline, and so on. So who is this for? I mean, it's obviously online, which has its advantages and disadvantages. It's online, so you can go to a coffee shop and take the course. So you don't need to travel somewhere to take it. It, of course, also allows it really to be in a group with other people from around the world, which provides very interesting networking opportunities, and also interesting opportunities for comparing maybe the UX culture in different countries, like when you talk to someone from another country. Then I would say it's also, of course, then it also depends on what type of learner you are. Like I would say in general, a lot of people learn better from classes, from doing something interactive than just from reading a book, because the way we learn is by trying to have different different ways of input. So not just only reading, but having some audio input, something visual, and so on. So of course, in this course, you will really work interactive, you apply your knowledge, and that's in general is proven to be a good way to learn. But there might be still people that maybe prefer to work on the content whenever they want to. So of course, it is a live course, if that's something that appeals to you. Then again, one of the biggest advantages is of course that you're going to be working with a client. Like what I've seen a lot, what clients ask for is experience working with clients, working with real companies and not just have invented case studies on your portfolio. So this is again something that it really is going that this course is going to help you to achieve, to have one more project on your portfolio where you've worked, with a real client.
Okay, we have one
we have a
question.
question. Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to show. This is first part. I already know that I'm not available for one of the evening sessions, and then may attend an alternative showing. So, as I mentioned already, our classes are usually in the evening. However, if you were not able to attend at, I would say, one day or one session or a couple of them, all of the recordings are available after the session is done, and they're uploaded to the Google Drive, and you can access it at any time. All the slides as well, and of course, if you cannot access the class, you can listen to the recordings, and afterwards, if you have time, you will still be working with the client. You will still be working with the team. Since you will be divided into teams, your team can assist you in terms of the sessions. Sometimes our sessions are done because we're doing over the Zoom platform. We have breakout rooms with the different challenges, with the different tasks, with the different, I would say, uh, details to work with that is provided by the course instructors, and you can consult with your team about it. But if you're unable to attend the live session, you can listen to the recordings afterwards.
Yeah, that has been the case several times in the past, and it's usually not an issue. There's like one or two sessions that you can't attend. We'd have the recording. I would say another advantage that students mentioned in the past of this course is that you're of course part of a small group. I'm not 100% sure what our maximum of students is, but like 12 students, 14 students, our groups are really small. You're not part of a cohort of 30, 40, 50 students. But this, of course, on the one hand, really gives you the advantage of getting to know everyone, network. But you can also ask me direct questions. And also in mentoring, of course, you can ask a lot of questions. And this also allows me as a teacher to kind of target the course a little bit. Of course, I can't immediately change the whole structure of the course, but okay, if we have people that want to learn more about a specific topic, I can always dive a little bit deeper into it. I can provide you extra resources. That's something I can do in a course of like 10 people. I couldn't do in a course of like 100 people. So this is, I would say, is also one of the advantages. Of course, also in terms of structure, it's a course that is kind of tries to strike a balance between, on the one hand, being an intermediate course, so trying to advance your knowledge, but still being rather broad. So if you're only interested in, I want to become a really good prototyper, or I want to become excellent at user interviews and learn everything that there is about user interviews, there are courses that are specialized in that. So we're trying to achieve that balance, like what usually I think matches what most people like that have a beginner knowledge in UX design, what they need. They're not immediately want to completely specialize, but they want to get a little bit of extra knowledge. Anything to add, Kat?
No, I just want to, I mean, on my side, we pretty much said everything. What I wanted to mention, as I said before, this is the email you can send any questions regarding the course, regarding information about UX Academy. And this will be the website where you can find out more about us, more about upcoming courses, more about upcoming webinars. Usually every month we have webinars before the course. So this intermediate session is for the upcoming intermediate UX design course. And of course, if you visit our website, you will find more details about the pricing, more about the course structure. You can as well download the brochure and get more information on the details for each week of the course. And of course, if you have any other questions, you can follow us on our social medias, or you can send us an email. Feel free to contact us at any time. Usually we reply within a 30-minute stop. So if we don't have any other questions, we will end this session for today. As I mentioned, feel free to contact us anytime. If you need more details, send an email. You can also consult with our course advisors. If you want to download the brochure and you need to get more information, our course advisors can call you and can provide you with additional information about the course, about the pricing, and other details. So, Nora, I think this is it for tonight. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you guys for watching us, and we wish you a lovely rest of the day.
Thanks for attending, and yeah, have a lovely evening, day, afternoon, depending on your time zone.
Thank you, Nora, and to you as well.
Thank you.